In this video, you are going to learn how to talk to girls quickly. In fact, these conversation strategies are one of the reasons why our private coaching members are getting results so quickly and why our company, Introverted Badass, in my opinion at least, I think these are the contributing factors of why Introverted Badass became the world market leader in dating advice for smart introverted men. My name is Nick Neeson. I'm the founder and CEO of Introverted Badass. And if you don't already know Introverted Badass is the world's leading dating advice company for introverted men. And today I'm going to reveal 4 superior conversation skills so that you never run out of things to say. And more importantly, so that you'll stand out from your competition and have women think of you long after you're gone. And even more importantly, you won't have to turn into an extrovert or into someone you're not. These techniques work specifically well for introverted men. But before we go into those techniques, let's have a look at what's not working for introverts. Now, I've been teaching introverts how to talk to women for more than 20 years now. And over that amount of time, it became obvious to me that there are 3 things that absolutely don't work for introverted men. Now, sadly, those 3 things account for 99% of the dating advice on the planet. So here they are. Number 1, copying extroverts. You see, most dating advice tries to turn introverts into extroverts, as if being introverted is some kind of a disease that needs to be cured. Now, nothing could be further from the truth. Introversion is not a weakness. Introversion is a strength. The problem is that social etiquette has largely been developed by extroverts, and that's quite normal because extroverts get their energy from social interactions. And so, because of that, they seek out these situations more than introverts, right? And so, it's quite understandable that extroverts largely influenced social etiquette. But what does that mean to you? Does that mean that as an introvert, you're doomed? No, you're not. The only thing that means is the following. Extroverts are usually better in larger groups of people. They relish small talk and they love being the center of attention. Now, if you are an introvert, I have great news for you. You don't have to talk like an extrovert. You have your own strengths. Your strengths lie in one-on-one conversations. And guess what? Dating is mostly one-on-one. So a better way of looking at this is like this. Extroverts are better openers. Introverts are better closers. We each have our strengths. So that means that extroverts are good at opening conversations with many people, but they tend not to be as good in one-on-one situations and one-on-one dates. So if you try as an introvert to become some marvelous storyteller and gregarious entertainer, you'll feel like you're behaving like someone you're not. And on top of that, you'll get exhausted very quickly. It's just not you. And also, it won't take you long before you give up on this approach because it is so draining. And also, please remember this. If you behave like an extrovert, you'll attract women that fall for extroverts. And guess what happens once they find out that this is not you? If you guessed that you get dumped, you're right. So, as you can see, you're much better off staying true to yourself and leveraging your strengths. And I'll show you exactly how to do that later in this video. Here's the second thing that doesn't work for introverts. DHV stories, or delivering high value stories. The DHV story is a technique that was invented by pickup artists. And basically, it's bragging about yourself by telling stories about yourself. Here's an example of one of those ridiculous stories that PUAs use. Yesterday, my ex-girlfriend picked me up at the airport and she arrived in a red Lamborghini. Now, normally, she has an Audi, so I didn't realize it was her. So, I did as if I didn't see the car and I just hopped in the car and did very normal. And later on, she told me that she had a photo shoot and they let her keep the car for the weekend. And then suddenly the cops pulled us aside. Yada, 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 yada. So, as you can see, The idea behind this is that you paint some attractive qualities of yourself in the form of a story. And what attractive qualities are you painting about yourself? Well, it's very simple. This story says that you have an ex-girlfriend. So that means you have been pre-selected by other women. And if you don't know what pre-selection is a form of social proof. And it's an attraction trigger within women. That means that when women know that other women are attracted to you, it creates attraction in them. And that's a very powerful trigger. So by saying that you have an ex-girlfriend, you imply pre-selection and you trigger attraction. But it gets deeper than that. It's not just any girlfriend that you had. She was a model. So what you're doing here is you're saying not only are you pre-selected by women, but you're pre-selected by beautiful women, by models. And you take it one step further even with that example. Not only is she beautiful, but she's also incredibly beautiful because they even gave her a Lamborghini. So I think you get the point. Quality women, they will see through this bragging behavior. And needless to say that this yields very little success. Even for extroverts, it's a losing strategy. But for smart, thoughtful introverts, this just feels like you're betraying yourself. It goes against every cell in your body. Now, quite frankly, it's one of the most ridiculous things that I've ever heard. So don't do it, because it's not you. You're better than this. And by the way, it also doesn't work on quality women. Now, the next thing that doesn't work for introverts is PUA routines or pickup artist routines. PUA routines or pickup artist routines are these silly things that pickup artists do to keep the conversation going. Basically, they use psychological games, magic tricks, palm reading, tarot cards, and all that kind of BS to entertain women. And there's no need to tell you that it doesn't work. Well, actually, it does work on low quality women. But quality women, they look at this as a sign of insecurity. They see this and they'll be thinking like, gosh, can't he just have a normal conversation? What a weird guy. He must be really insecure. I think you get the point here, right? And so when you and I look at these tactics, it just makes our hair stand on end. Now, luckily for you, this is what most men do on dates. They either become nervous, get tongue-tied, or they use these silly pickup artist routines and DHV stories that frankly repulse women. Great, let them behave like that. It's all the better for you and me because we'll take a different approach. So what do you do instead? How do you keep the conversation going in a way that makes you stand out from 99% of all the other men that she interacts with? How do you have real, authentic conversations that build deep connections and spark attraction as well? Well, here are 4 superior ways to talk to women and make them addicted to you. And they are superior in the sense that they are natural and authentic, but devastatingly effective, and they work great for introverted men. Here's the first one. Conversation technique number 1. Keep the conversation focused on her 90% of the time. But this is not the way you've been taught to. So I know you've heard this probably before, but most of the dating advice and most of the conversation skills out there are teaching this the wrong way. But I'll teach you how to do it the right way, and that's very important. If you do it the wrong way, you'll quickly, the conversation will quickly get that vibe of an interrogation, and you don't want that. And if you do it the wrong way, like most dating advice teaches it, it actually closes women off and they will not want to talk to you. They will not open up to you. Now, if you do it the right way, then this is probably the single most effective way to keep a conversation going forever. Seriously, use this technique the right way and she'll feel like time flies. And the reason for this is simple. People love to talk about themselves and women are no different. And by doing this, she'll keep talking and talking and talking, and she'll enjoy the hell out of it. Plus, this also has the added benefit that you'll find out a lot about her. The best part, as an introvert, this technique is so easy for you because most introverts, they love listening to others and they love getting to know people on a deeper level. So what is this technique and how should you use it the right way? This technique does not mean that she will be talking 90% of the time. It means the conversation will be about her 90% of the time. Now, and this is where most advice gets this wrong. They'll tell you that the woman needs to be talking 90% of the time, and they'll teach you to ask open-ended questions to get her talking more and more and more. But here's the thing, if you do that, you'll quickly come over as if you're interrogating her, and it doesn't work. So what it means is, the way to do it properly is you want to have the conversation about her for 90% of the time. That means that it doesn't matter who's talking as long as the subject is about her. So, for example, let's take it to an extreme. You could be talking like 100% of the time. But if you're talking about her, that's what it means. That's what this technique is about. It's about having the conversation on her and about her. But of course, you won't be talking 100% of the time. This was just an example to illustrate that. So the beauty of this technique is that you don't have to be worrying about if you're talking more than her. So you could be talking 50%, 50% you, 50% her. You could be talking for 40% and she could be talking for 60% or 70, 30 or whatever. It doesn't matter. As long as the conversation is focused on her, this technique works wonders. And that's also what makes it work, is because you will be talking too, so it doesn't feel like an interrogation. Now, this is great. This is a great technique because it naturally aligns with your strengths. Extroverts, by the way, they are really bad at this because they usually talk more about themselves. Now, remember when I said that introversion is a strength, not a weakness? Well, this is one of your strengths. So use this natural advantage in your conversations. All right, let's hop on to conversation technique number 2, leading questions. And leading questions are very different from the typical questions that you might be learning in conversation skills or communication skills. Leading questions are much more interesting because they are different from the typical what, where, when, and who questions. Because those what, where, when, who questions are very boring. And that's exactly what your competition is doing. They usually have boring and shallow conversations where they go into interview mode. This means they start asking question after question after question. And usually all of them will ask like literally the same boring questions, like literally, like what do you do? Where are you from? Where do you work? Oh, what street is that? Now, put yourself in the place of a woman who hears these boring questions over and over again. It's depressing, isn't it? So here's a much better way to elicit this information from her. Instead of using these open-ended, boring questions, use leading questions. So here are some examples. Don't ask, where are you from? But do ask, are you Russian? Don't ask, what do you do? But do ask, are you a nurse? As you can see, these questions instantly differentiate you from 99.99% of all the other men that she talks to. And one of the key reasons that these questions are much more effective is because they make women curious. And that curiosity then further fuels the conversation. So she'll be thinking, if you ask her, are you Russian? She'll be thinking, why the hell does he think I'm Russian? Or if you ask her, are you a nurse? She'll be thinking, why does he think I'm a nurse? And guess what happens when women get curious? They want to satisfy that curiosity, so they'll start asking you questions. They'll probably ask you, why do you think I'm Russian? Or why do you think I'm a nurse? So can you see how this fuels the conversation? And can you also see how it also makes the rest of the conversation much more interesting? I mean, you can now have a conversation about why you think she's Russian or why you think she's a nurse. And she'll love it because guess what? It's about her. So this is a perfect example of keeping the conversation focused on her without bombarding her with questions. Because when she asks you why you think that she's Russian, well, you can then give your opinion why you think that. You're then talking, you're making statements, you're explaining to her why you think that. But it's about her, not about you. So it keeps the conversation very interesting for her. And it doesn't sound like an interrogation. She'll really love that. Now, the next thing that you can do actually is one level up from leading questions. And I call this conversation technique number 3, teasing assumptions. Now, teasing assumptions are almost the same as leading questions in the sense that you are guessing something about her. But instead of using a question, you use a statement. You make a statement and you're making an assumption, but you do it in a teasing way. So here are some examples. Don't ask her, where are you from? But do say, you know, you look Italian. You have the brown eyes, the olive-colored skin, and you move your hands a lot when you're talking. Now, Italian people, they gesture a lot. So by saying that, you're actually teasing her. Here's another example. Don't ask her, what do you do? But instead you could say, you seem like a lawyer. You know, you have that save the world vibe about you. Again, that is almost the same as saying, are you a lawyer? But the difference is you're making a statement, it's not a question, and you're teasing her on it. So as you can clearly see, teasing assumptions are much more interesting than those boring questions that your competition is using. Not only are these assumptions more interesting and fun to her, but also they're more fun and interesting to you because you'll actually enjoy your interactions with women much more. I mean, it's more interesting to guess stuff about people and do it in a teasing way. And you'll stand out from your competition like a black stallion in a prairie full of white dwarf donkeys. Now, this teasing aspect, seriously, is so important. And that is because teasing creates attraction. Remember when you teased girls when you were a little kid? Well, this is a universal thing. The same things that were attractive when you were little kids are still attractive right now. Now, that is not to say that you want to be immature, because being immature is not attractive. But being a mature man that knows how to tease her, sometimes like a little kid did, that is very attractive. Another interesting thing about these assumptions is this. Over time, you'll develop an intuition. And that means that you'll start to guess right. And when that happens, it makes her even more intrigued about you. And by the way, if you're worried that, my gosh, what happens when I guess wrong, don't worry about it. If you don't guess right, it still builds attraction like crazy because it's so unique, it's so differentiating. It makes the conversation so interesting, and the teasing really creates attraction. So guessing right is just the cherry on the top. Don't worry about doing that right or wrong. That doesn't matter. All right, let's go to the next one. Conversation technique number 4. Connecting through conversational bridges the right way. Again, this is one of those techniques that you might have heard of before, but it is mostly taught the wrong way. Like 99% of the communication and conversation advice and even dating advice that teaches it the wrong way. So I'm going to show you how to do it the right way. Now, first, what are conversational bridges? Conversational bridges are transition points in a conversation that allow you to go from one topic to a new topic without you having to introduce that new topic yourself. So let me repeat that. Conversational bridges are transition points in a conversation that allow you to go from one topic to a new topic without you having to introduce that new topic yourself. So they are literally like bridges that take you from one topic to the other. Every time a woman opens her mouth, she is giving you a bridge. And that bridge that she's giving you could be the words that she uses. It could be the emotions behind her words, like her emotional state. It could be her accent. It could be information. It could even be what she's not saying but implying. So for example, let's say you are talking to a woman and she says the following. You ask her where she's from. And she says, I'm from Mexico and I'm doing an internship for 2 months in the States. Now, how many bridges did you count? At least 4. We have Mexico, we have internship, we have 2 months, and we have the States. Now, what that means is that you can now bridge into a conversation about Mexico, about her internship, about the States, or about the fact that she's here for 2 months. So that is great because you have 4 new conversation topics right here. Now, by the way, there are even more than 4 bridges in this example. You have to listen to more than just her words. You have to read between the lines. How was her emotional state when she talked? Was she excited about her stay in the States? Or was she more neutral? Did she say it in a way that implies something? I mean, did she say it in a way that implies that she'll definitely come back after those 2 months? Did she have an accent? You see, all of these things are bridges that you can use. So, for example, if she seemed excited, you could talk about the fact that it must feel very adventurous and exciting to come to a new country. So as you can see, using bridges allows you to keep the conversation going and never run out of things to say. And it makes for much more interesting conversations. Okay, so now that you know what bridges are, how on earth do you use them? How do you use them the right way? So remember I just said a few minutes ago that most people teach this the wrong way. So how do you use them the right way? Well, let's first have a look at the wrong way. Here's how 99% of your competition is doing it. Number 1, interrogation style. So for example, he will say, what do you do? And she'll say, I'm a makeup artist. And he'll say, interesting. So where are you from? And she'll say, Brazil. Cool. So what are your hobbies? I like going to art museums. Now, there's no need to explain that this is not connecting with women. This is a nightmare for women. The next one that we have is the commonality seeking obsession. So I'm going to use the exact same examples because that makes it easier to see the differences. So the guy says, what do you do? And she says, I'm a makeup artist. And he says, interesting, my sister is a makeup artist too. She's doing it as a part-time job. So where are you from? Brazil. And he says, cool, I visited Brazil twice and I really love feijoada. So what are your hobbies? For the people who don't know, feijoada is the national dish in Brazil. And so he asks her, what are her hobbies? And she says, I like to go to art museums. And again, he's looking for those commonalities. Oh, I love art museums too. I went to that art museum XYZ and I want to go to that new one that will open next month. Yada, 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 yada. Now, by the way, guys, this is the tactic that most introverted men use. They almost obsessively look for commonalities. They hope to build rapport that way, but what they don't realize is that women distrust it. They see men that use this approach as weak, or they think that they're lying to get into their panties. The next approach that doesn't work is the pickup artist approach. So here we go with that one. So what do you do? Well, I'm a makeup artist. Oh my God, you're a makeup artist? I can never see you again. You know, I'm breaking up with you. I'm keeping the dog and the DVDs. You can have the table and the TV. Please stay away from me. You know, ugh. I mean, do I even need to comment on this? If a man wants to look like a fool, he should definitely do that. It makes you look like an immature little boy, and you don't want that. But hey, again, it's good for you if your competition is using that. It just gives you plenty more opportunity to stand out and attract and connect with truly high quality women. And here's how you'll do it. Here's how you will stand out from your competition and give her a truly mature, masculine, attractive male experience. The right way to connect is to use her conversational bridges and then imagine what it's like to be her and then feed that back to her. So for example, you could be asking her, so what do you do? And she says, I'm a makeup artist. And you can say, nice, you know, I like that. I imagine that you must see the world in a different way than most people do. I mean, you must be able to appreciate the details in people and in things much more. So where are you from? And she says, I'm from Russia. And, you know, you can say, well, you don't look like it, but I've been told that Eastern European women are more conventional and they stick to classical looks. Now look at you. You look more like a rebel. I mean, look at your fashion style. So what do you do when you're not working? And she says, you know, I like going to art museums. And you could say, well, you know, I can imagine that being a creative and detail-oriented person You must enjoy looking at other people's creations, and when you look at ancient art, you probably appreciate the details and the finesse a lot. So it must be really nice to go to art museums and enjoy the experience. Now, a little word of warning is appropriate here. In fact, I'm going to give you two warnings. The first one is a little one. In reality, you wouldn't jump from topic to topic like I just did in the examples. You would connect the way I did in the example, that was good, but instead of jumping to a different topic, you would go deeper into that same topic until it naturally morphs into another topic. But as you can see, this is much more interesting as a conversation. Instead of interrogating her or obsessively looking for commonalities or acting like a foolish PUA, you actually connected with her in a meaningful way. And this is much more interesting for her because she'll start to feel that connection with you. And again, the conversation was about her. I can't stress that enough. You want to keep the conversation focused on her 90% of the time, 80% of the time, but you don't want to be asking questions 90% of the time or 80% of the time. And this, my friend, if you do this right, that is how you stand out from your competition like a diamond in a coal mine. And oh, by the way, as an introvert, this is really easy to do because you naturally have an inclination to be more empathetic and to connect with people. In fact, you hate small talk, but you love connecting. So clearly, you can see that you don't need to behave like an extrovert. In fact, extroverts are at a disadvantage in one-on-one conversations. They have a really hard time doing this. Now, here's my second warning. The connecting technique that you learned in this video will get you friend zone. And you do need to connect if you want to date quality women. But if you only build a connection, then you'll get friend zoned. You also need to build attraction and arousal during your conversations. And if you are wondering about the best way to avoid the friend zone and build sexual chemistry, then you can download my proactive friend zone avoider right now. And there is a link somewhere below this video. Just click the link and you can go directly and download the proactive friend zone avoider. But first, let's do a quick recap. How to talk to women is a top concern for introverted men. You see, in the presence of a beautiful woman, most introverts, they either nervously talk too much or they freeze up and get tongue-tied altogether. Now, typical dating advice is not helping introverts with this. The worst things that you can do as an introvert is to copy extroverts or learn DHV stories or apply pickup artist routines. You are much better off leveraging your own strengths and using techniques that are introvert friendly. And here are the 4 techniques again. Number 1, keep the conversation focused on her for 90% of the time. Number 2, ask leading questions. Number 3, use teasing assumptions. And number 4, connect through conversational bridges. However, again, I have to warn you, using the connecting strategies alone will get you friend zoned. That's why you also need to inject attraction and arousal in the conversation. Now, the best step-by-step way to do it is to download my free bonus called the Proactive Friend Zone Avoider. The Proactive Friend Zone Avoider is a sequence of 5 simple questions that you can use during your conversations with women that will build sexual chemistry and make sure that you will never get friend zoned again. Now, these 5 questions literally work like magic and they're truly easy to use. And I know this sounds like hype, but they really do work like magic. Just sprinkle all 5 of them into your next conversation in the right order and you'll be guaranteed to avoid that dreaded friend zone, and instead you'll land into what I like to call the sexy zone. So access your bonus right here, right now by clicking the link below this video, and you'll be taken to an online page where you can download the Proactive Friend Zone Avoider. So guys, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed watching this video as much as I enjoyed making it for you. And if you liked this video, make sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel right now, because that way you won't be missing out on actionable dating advice videos specifically for introverted men, just like this one. So just click the subscribe button, because that way you'll be notified each time I release a new video. Also, if you want exclusive dating techniques for introverted men that I only share with my subscribers, then click the link below to get access to the Proactive Friend Zone Avoider, and that way you'll also get on my newsletter, and I'll send you free tips in that newsletter that you will not find on this channel. These tips are specifically for my subscribers, but it's free. So if you click the link below the video and you get access to the Proactive Friend Zone Avoider, you'll also get my free newsletter as a bonus. And now I want to turn it over to you. Which technique from today's video are you going to use first? Are you going to keep the conversation focused on her 90% of the time? Are you going to use that technique? Or are you going to use leading questions? Or are you going to use teasing assumptions? Or maybe you're going to use the conversational bridges first. So guys, let me know by leaving a comment below right now. Thank you so much for watching, and I wish you all the best.